All right, guys, can y'all hear me? Is my audio all good? Just making certain you guys can are actually able to hear me and my voice isn't just completely glitched out. I believe my voice is off, or not off. It's working. All right, so this is the GURPS Skills Compass. I decided to pivot from the tier lists format, although it's a lot more viral, I'd say. The tier list is probably a lot better for clicks or whatever. I feel like this would be a lot more accurate to display just how varied a lot of the GURPS skills are in their usefulness and also in their ability to be used in multiple games. The problem was as I was editing it and as I was going through it, I found myself just arbitrarily placing things along the middles of tiers and whatnot, and I really wasn't satisfied with the way it was turning out, to be very honest, and it would have caused a shitstorm, and the whole tier list would have for certain been controversial. I'd say, not to say that any of my choices may have been out of whack. I did make a few mistakes in the previous tier list, but either way, I didn't think it was all too great to represent every single skill, and I kind of decided instead to use what is colloquially called the compass style. If you guys have seen the political compass back in 2016, the dark age of the internet, then you definitely would have seen a compass at least once in your lifetime. And so the way this is going to be shown is that there's no ideal skill in GURPS. Obviously, there are ones that are going to be used on a lot more characters. That will be represented through the generic stat right here. Depending on how many or how few characters will have a certain skill, we'll place it on this axis, so to speak. So a skill that a lot of characters may have will be on the generic side, whereas a skill that few characters will have will be on more the niche side. And on the y-axis here, you can see the viable and flavorful lists. Again, viable and flavorful are not meant to be skills that you must choose, but more so skills that have much more bang for their buck. So skills that are higher on the cost with less actual repercussions during gameplay are going to be lower on this side of the tier list, or not on the tier list, on this side of the axis. So much more. I guess you could say more, again, obviously more viable things will be on the top of the list itself. So why don't we get into it? Let's get started. So I'm gonna start semi A to Z. 11:30 a.m. I'm not sure what time zone that is exactly. For me, it's 8:30. I'm an East Coast USA individual. All right. So let's go on and start out with accounting. This is obviously the most exciting skill. And while the stream happens too, you guys can ask questions and whatnot. Again, I'm not gonna try to derail the whole stream too much, but it will be a long one for certain. So expect me to go on tangents and whatnot, and also just to try and explain some GURPS rules for those who may not be who may want to ask about certain things from me or just about GURPS in general. All right, so accounting in particular, again, not to knock accountants in general. I am going to place accounting in more of the flavor center. You absolutely could put good use to this in a more administrative social campaign, but the amount of uses that you can get mechanically in play are going to be few and far between. Also, just again, I'm going to make sure to just mention this. This is assuming a campaign that is at least somewhat adventurous in nature. The people playing in the campaign will be encountering any sort of adversity whatsoever, and combat is going to be a part of the game. That's sort of what I'm assuming is your average GURPS game or average TTRPG game in general. There will be at least some adversity. If there's no adversity, there's no interest in the game, you know? Not to say a non-combat game can't work. I'm just saying that most games tend to have combat in them. My games tend to have combat in them, you know? So, accounting itself, I will say it's more on the flavorful side. You can put use to it as far as in a monetary sense, but also, again, it's going to be kind of hard to rank it anywhere above like this individual corner right here. So that is where accounting will go right here. Sorry to say, you know, I imagine most viewers are at least accountant age, because on the on YouTube stats it shows that around 24 people are around 24 to 35 years old who watch my stuff. So hey all. But anywho, now let's move on to acrobatics. Acrobatics is quite good. You won't see me knocking this whatsoever. I've probably spoken a lot about how acrobatic dodge can very easily break your games. Not only in the sense where you can get to such a high amount of dodge score, but also in that it leads to so many individual techniques, and it has a great amount of use in combat as well. Also, you consider negating fall damage too, at least part of it, 5 yards, of course, but part of fall damage. Again, acrobatics can be put to great use. However, the point cost of it will bump it down a little bit. I'll say that. So it's less generic, but it is very viable. So I'm probably gonna place it around this section right here, because you're going to see a lot of characters at least dip some points into acrobatics in much more high-powered games. However, it's expensive, and you know, you may see characters put it off because again, it may not be very worth it. So I definitely would say it's going to be definitely very viable, but not all too generic. So I may just put it at middle of the road right here. All right, so now let's get a move on onto acting. So acting in and of itself, you may expect me to knock acting. However, it has some pretty damn good uses. If you guys watched the Terminator video recently, again, you can assume in most cases, if you're trying to impersonate somebody and make use of disguises, whether they be a character transforming or they actually be individual attempts to try and mask one's face, acting will be the main attempt to do so. Also, if you're a rather deceptive party and try to play dead, most GMs will ask you to make an acting roll to play as a convincing dead body. So for that reason, I definitely feel like acting has its uses. It can be higher up. However, I'm going to place it as a little bit more niche in and of itself. So I'll probably put it a little bit over here. You have the social aspect to it. It has definitely its uses in a game. However, I will say that not a lot of characters may make use of it with lower IQ scores and whatnot as well. Again, me placing IQ or social-based skills on more niche skills or more flavorful skills is not me knocking characters. Again, a good character is going to have attributes in this niche and flavorful side of the compass. Every character should have at least one of those, like, quote-unquote bottom tier skills, so to speak. Again, give your character artist skill or poetry skill or musician skill. They may not have any individual actual part to play when it comes to like combat or whatever, but they're going to texture your characters and make them a lot more worthwhile to play. I definitely will say that. So I will probably say this again multiple times, but again, make characters that are more in the are more again, obviously make characters that can function, but also again, give them some diversity in the niche and flavorful scale of things. Sorry, back to it. Let's move on to administration. Now, administration, I probably must say, is one of the more niche skills as things go. and certainly I can see less use of. There are better skills for playing a leader type role for certain, and also you're going to have issues of you're going to have issues wherein you're going to have issues where it may get too granular as far as management games go. Yes, exactly. Again, a good GM can make niche and flavorful skills completely viable and completely generic. Again, like imagine a bandit captain who has a soft spot for poetry, or imagine a odd alien race that has a interpretive dance as a way of speaking. Again, that is again a way of making those skills much more viable than they need be. So yes, I absolutely agree with you, Wingnut, because again, you're going to make those skills a lot more desired for certain in those games. But yeah, administration in particular, I definitely do feel like you have a point bonus. There is the option of like getting a point bonus for reaction rolls. However, I can definitely see it being used a little bit less. Again, leader type characters may be using it a lot more, but again, I really don't see it being used all too much. All right, so I'm gonna place it like around right over here. I'd say, and maybe next to accounting even, because again the way that there's so many skills in this game, it's gonna be very hard to clump them all together. So again, if many skills are in one spot, they're around 200 plus skills to rank themselves. So you may see a couple of them in clumps that are, I would say, indistinguishable, but I definitely would place them in the same spot. All right, so let's just place this right here. I may put accounting actually a little bit higher than, a little bit more generic than administration, because there is the aspect of again, this is being more individualist skill that one can learn over time with being close to money, where an administration actually is more about being a leader. So that's probably less generic, I'd say. Why were most of the videos taken down? So again, I'm gonna make a just completely clear statement. My views changed on the idea of AI generated content. I don't agree with any of, like, again, the idea of cloning voices and whatnot. The way I looked at it beforehand was that, oh, I'm not a studio, I couldn't pay them in the first place. Then what's the harm in copying a voice? They're already on the internet anyway. But as time passed and as the technology became more ingrained, and as you would see more instances of people being accused of crimes or besmirched for AI generated voices of themselves, and the instances of like really dirty stuff happening to people with AI generated voices or faces, it really I personally really couldn't stomach having that content out in the open. And so I kind of did a half measure in that, oh yeah, you can message me, but they're not gonna know who I am. I'm a GURPS tuber. There's no knowledge of this content. So when I came back, I figured, why not just take them down and just let them die. You know, I don't mind that. I'm gonna replace them with better content, more comprehensive stuff, and things that are more deserving of the GURPS community. So that's generally my take on it. But either way, I'll say that once and no more. Sorry. But yeah, that content's gone. It is not coming back. Sorry to say. But let's move on, shall we? All right. Let's get ourselves on over to Alchemy, actually. Yeah, exactly. It became like terrible things, and like also the idea of the actors strike too. But again, sorry, I'm going off topic again. So either way, that's administration, and let's move on to yes, I was gonna say alchemy, but if anything, let's move on over to let's move on over to Armory, actually. So Armory in and of itself actually is actually can find a lot of use in especially TL3 and below parties. The ability to maintain one's equipment, especially given you have a shield user and whatnot. Especially if you have a shield user or people with armor. If you're using the using more gritty armor rules where armor can break down over time, then an armorer is really, really useful. However, I anticipate in most games you're not going to use all that much grit when it comes to armor breaking down. But either way, armor is still very good to have. You may have one or two characters. You may only need one or two characters taking armory, but either way, it's still really good to take. So I definitely will say it's less generic, but it's definitely up there viable-wise. So I'll probably put it around here for now. Again, places could change depending on my whims, or if one of you guys has like a take and say, hey, GURPS Vet, what the hell? They're being stupid. You forgot this one ruling in Dungeon Fantasy River. Then fair game. I will retract my statement and move it up or down depending on the ruling. But let's move on, shall we? Area knowledge. So the thing is, most GMs may not actually use area knowledge all too much. Certain GMs may just instead decide to make most knowledge sacred to certain players and characters. However, in social games, you're going to find a lot of area knowledge being used when it comes to when it mainly comes to a lot of armory. Armory looks like in general, but you can make use of it in higher tech games when it comes to maintaining rifles or building rifles too, or building armor and whatnot. Again, a lot of those skills clumped together one another is going to make up armory. However, you're going to see like it's much more of a maintenance tool rather than like an active campaign changing tool, I'd say. However, again, it works in the long run. Have at least somebody take armory in your party, I'd say. But yeah, back to area knowledge. So let's move on, shall we, to area knowledge. So most campaigns may not have area knowledge as a required skill, I'd say. But however, you can make a good use out of it as far as learning lore or being able to discern possible facts about the campaign in and of itself. You can make a lot of good use of it, and also it's applicable to most aspects of the game, and or most aspects of any campaign. Again, there's always talk of the town. There's always going to be gossip or history or lore. This is just condensed to a singular area, and it could depend on the general size of the place. So I'm going to place area knowledge in and of itself on a more generic scale, but probably less of a viable skill. It's not going to change all too many games. However, it will most certainly you can definitely make a good use out of it in your games. All right, let's move on, shall we? Let's move on to auto hypnosis. Now, auto hypnosis, there is the idea of how there is a tangible point bonus, but there is the idea of having it gain a tangible point bonus, whether it be reducing pain or stress. However, a GM that makes use of these rules likely isn't going to really stress it all too much. And either way, your campaign, if it's more of on a magical scale, you may have better means to to gain the bonuses that auto hypnosis gives you. And for that reason, I'm gonna scale it more on the niche side too, because A, you will have to find a GM that utilizes rules that benefit from auto hypnosis, and also B, you're also gonna it's the idea of a setup, and also the idea of a character that buys into hypnosis type abilities and whatnot. So I certainly am going to place it in more of a niche scale. There is the idea of gaining tangible point bonuses, but it is going to dip below into the flavorful era instead. All right, so let's go to bicycling. Actually, now the funny thing about bicycling is that, to be very honest, bicycling in and of itself, you may expect me to shit on bicycling, but it actually isn't all too bad of a skill when it comes to after the end or apocalypse type games. If your game has roads, for instance, you can make very good use of bicycling. It's a non-gas way of transport. You can move pretty damn fast, and so yeah, I'm gonna go the anti-cars r/fuck cars. I'm gonna go that way. Bicycling is very good, but only for games that don't utilize cars, and also games that don't also games that have bicycles too. If you're in a low-tech game, there's no bicycles, so there's no use of it. However, it can be made very viable in that it can be viable, but it's also very niche. So I'm going to just place it in the niche area, but also pretty damn viable as well. All right, so let's move on to throwing. Actually, throwing is one of those weird ones. Not really weird at all. Actually, it's not weird at all. The game itself, again, just for those that don't know, GURPS Basic itself literally states that you should not put too much stock into throwing random shit. If you're just, hey, I'm gonna toss this rock in this general direction with no rhyme or reason, the game tells you, please don't make them roll for that. Just have them do blank, you know. Just have them do it, you know. However, in cases like throwing a grenade, or trying to accurately throw things, or trying to throw something that's a little bit heavier or more awkward to carry, throwing most certainly is going to be a skill to take. And for that reason, it's going to be a lot more generic and definitely a lot more viable than the game itself may suggest. But for certain, it's going to be in more of the generic and viable sense. I'm going to place it right there. All right, so let's gonna move on and get ourselves on over to Alchemy. I mentioned before, I didn't even get over to it. So Alchemy is, again, it's going to be limited to only certain settings that utilize a more magical, hocus pocus style of chemistry, and the idea that concoctions can create a magical effect as well. However, you can make very good use of the alchemy skill in particular, and whether it be healing your fellow players, or whether it be making money for yourself as well, or poisoning enemies, damaging things, it can be very, very viable to take alchemy. Whether it be your game uses alchemy or not, that depends. So that's gonna put it more on the niche scale. However, it can be made very, very viable. So I'm gonna put it right over here, actually. Okay, so let's gonna move on to carpentry skill. Now, carpentry, again, there is the idea of there's a tangibility to the skill. It is a trade that one can possibly benefit from, whether it be building things for your party, or selling things for yourself, or fixing things as well, and possibly fulfilling deeds that some may ask of the party as well. But To be very honest, I really am not all too well. Honestly, I'm not gonna say I'm not all too keen on it. For certain, it's gonna be it's a great skill to pick up, but I'm gonna say it's more on the flavorful side, and also more on the generic side, because in most games you may not see this being put to great use. As far as a building tool goes, you may see more of engineering or architecture or mechanic as well. So I'm going to put it more of a flavorful and less of a generic, more generic than less. But either way, there's less of a effect on your games on average. All right, so carousing. Let's get over this one. Definitely a very generic and definitely a very potent social skill when it comes to your games that may feature parties. Again, if you're a GM, you love throwing a party. Players get introduced to characters that are eccentric, rich, mysterious, any sort, and as well the fact that parties may be very common in your games, but also the fact that it's health easy. Why shouldn't you take it? You know, just put 1 point into it. Your health will already be pretty damn high to begin with, so why not put just 8 points into it and make yourself just all that much better at socializing? So for that reason, I'm going to place it in more generic scale, but also it's going to be definitely pretty damn viable. So I'm going to place it like over here. It's not gonna be a really it's not gonna be a game changer, but it certainly will be a good skill to take, and for that reason, it goes right there. All right, all right. Let's go on to camouflage. Actually, so camouflage in and of itself is actually pretty damn good when it comes to, again, a tangible bonus to stealth, and as far as if you're trying to buff your stealth beyond any doubt, if you have a low skill limit, camouflage is a very good way of buffing that skill in particular. Buffing stealth, making it a lot easier to infiltrate in a given area. Camouflage will be your go-to. However, again, there's the idea of setup, and also the idea of characters may or may not have it, but I definitely will place it in a higher tier. Perhaps even in a similar way to carousing, and perhaps in a like almost I may put the carousing a little bit higher, just to put camouflage higher as well. All right, let's move ourselves on over to get ourselves onto body control. Now, body control is interesting. It's going to be a lot more niche in that, again, you have to take trained by a master, breath control, and meditation as well. These are pretty steep requirements as well. So it's going to be in more of the niche style. There are, again, tangible benefits to it, but you're also going to have to fill in the shoes of these rather steep prerequisites, and lower point characters simply can't afford those buffs. So for certain, I definitely will place it more niche. There is the idea of again, the bonuses it can give. However, it's like not all that great anyway. Like, sure, yeah. And there are other better quote unquote body blank spells as well. So I'll get into those actually rather soon. So I probably am going to get right into body sense as well. And before I find that, does anybody have any questions about GURPS from me, or just in general about any of the placements I placed, or just the tier list in general as well? Let's see. Okay. But yeah, so body sense in and of itself actually is a pretty damn good skill for spellcasters in particular. Those who are willing to take, or not even just spellcasters, those who take a teleportation skill in particular, whether it be like a any form of warp, or whether it be like a there are certain like the psionic powers version of teleportation does have a modifier that allows you to forego the body sense issue. But again, for most spellcasters, this can be very, very damn good. And so I'm trying to find body sense right now, but I may just get into other stuff right now while I'm at it actually. So oh, here we go, found it. Nice. All right, so body sense again can be very useful, mainly used by spellcasters though. Again, if you want to not have to deal with losing your lunch, like you will throw up, you will get queasy and get nauseous and suffer a penalty to your pretty much you can lose your fucking lunch and get queasy, and like if you crit fail on that roll, you fall down. All right, so I'm gonna place again, it's more niche than not, but it also has more good things that it can do. Do I have any tips for novice GURPS GMs? Honestly, be prepared for as much as humanly possible, but honestly, no one's first time is going to be the easiest thing ever. Make a small game, start small. You don't want to get in over your head, use a few books, brief your players into what your expectations are. Don't be afraid to ban things too. If a player is like, if a player decides to guilt you into certain skills, send this video right now, this amount of time right here. I'm not sure what this timestamp is, but this timestamp right here, GURPS is telling you, listen to your damn GM, he makes the rules, or they make the rules. I'm not sure what you identify as, but either way, your GM, Kalash Vodka, makes the rules. This is GURPS Fed's voice right here telling you that. All right, so let's get a move on over to body language, actually. Body language, sorry. Oh, I think that's aficionado in the chat right there. I think that's a GURP. I recognize that. Possibly, I'm not sure. Mimic Knight, any comments on the idea that brawling is a bad skill because you can already fight unarmed? Yes. All right. So, there is the idea that you can punch, but you can't parry with brawling. You can't make use of brawling damage increases as well, as far as effective skill goes. It is literally a perk level parry in general. Sure, you can punch, but you'll be very shitty at it. And the ability to make use of whether it be weapons or strikers or anything of the sort, or a bite, for instance, too, you're going to want to at least take some brawling. Again, there are creatures that have no brain that make use of brawling-esque skills in particular. So for certain, at least most characters should put at least some points into brawling. Of course, there are better hand-to-hand combat skills than brawling, which I'll get into, more viable ones than brawling, but it absolutely is one that you should take at least 1 point into if you haven't already. That is why. Again, that whole brawling S tier part was one of the reasons why I changed my mind on the tier list as a whole. Is that it's hard to put a skill in an S tier, so to speak, without, in essence, kind of putting everything below it for no reason. But however, to get back to the point, I'll get to brawling soon. This is pretty much that was pretty much my reason for why brawling should be somewhere close to generic, heavily generic, and highly viable. body language is actually going to be very, not really very good. My bad. Sorry. Body language can be a good supplemental social skill to have, whether it be if you're not talking to somebody, if you're trying to analyze a thing or a person's disposition towards you, whether it be like an animal too. There are ideas of, again, people who refuse to speak towards you. If they don't want to speak, you can read that body language without having to talk to them as well, or poke for answers, and or also you can read body language in a sense that someone can you can see if somebody's trying to strike you as well. However, again, it's gonna be a bit more niche than other social based skills that I'll get into, but for now I'm gonna place body language in more of a more generic, and also there also is a good amount of viability toward body language as well. That I'll put it right there. All right, so architecture. There is the aspect of making a character that is able to build things with their mind, like a construction magician, and using architecture to more or less explain why they're able to create seamless constructs and fabricate things within their mind without much effort. But in essence, it's going to be more on that flavorful side, because of course you can use it for like planning like heists and like, and analyzing breaking points too. However, those are more so more or less not really in the game and up to the GM's discreet. So I'm going to just place it in more of the niche and flavorful side right here. I'm gonna put it right here. All right. So, just gotta scroll on down. Let's go over the traps, actually. Going all the way over to T right here. So, if you're playing Dungeon Fantasy, traps is absolutely a must. It absolutely is something worth it to put on there. Breaching. I have not ranked breaching yet. No, I'm not going quite from A to Z. The way the files went for my skills. Do you mean forced entry, Solid Claw, or I'm not quite sure, but I'm just going for basic for now. But yeah, the way that the files way the files themselves went into the game. Not game. Sorry. Where the files went into this spreadsheet right here, kind of is a little bit jacked up, so they're not quite in order. So for this reason, I'm gonna go to traps now, just to like get all of them. Know for a fact that I've gotten all of them down. Yeah. Or you mean like breaking blow, or yeah, door kicking one. Yes, useful, definitely very useful. I'd say less so useful in higher point games where you just have like much better means of breaking doors open, whether it be through spells or through tools that are able to do so, like in like higher tech games and like torches or like. But certainly can have its good uses. I probably would place it more on the viable and generic side, like over this clump right here for certain. All right, so traps though, Dungeon Fantasy games. Yeah, it's forced entry is the name for it. Solid Claw, I believe. Yeah, I'm not sure the exact. The one that gives extra damage to breaking objects is forced entry. But traps, definitely very very useful, and can have yeah, absolutely, yeah. Again, who doesn't love good old crowbar, you know? So traps in particular, you may see less of traps than more of them in your games. Again, if you're playing more of a again, in games that aren't Dungeon Fantasy based, you may see less of traps, you know? However, who can go wrong? Again, a GM will love to trap you. They'll love to punish you for nothing. As a GM myself, we're vindictive assholes, all right? So definitely take traps to prevent their wrath. And you may not see traps all too often in a lot of games. However, the oft times that you do have traps will be much remembered that you saved the party from a trap. So I'm going to place it higher on the viable list and less on the generic list for that reason. Alright, so ventriloquism. Truth be told, ventriloquism isn't actually the skill to make a mime talk without using your mouth. Ventriloquism is actually the skill to project your voice. Actually, the skill to project your voice to another area. Of course, you can use it to do the whole funny mime thing, but the main actual use in game is to, like a magician, project your voice across the area. Very niche, can have some uses. So for that reason, I'm going to place it very far, like over here. Like there are uses to it. A character can take it, but do you really want to take it? Do you want to take it? I'm asking you right now. You as a human being, do you seem like the person that would take ventriloquism on your character? It's rhetorical, by the way, but either way, just look within yourself and ask yourself that question. And the answer is probably no. Urban survival. Now, urban survival can really be very useful in games that take place in cities. GMs may dread a city, making a city. More GMs may be more partial towards a West March style game. But to those of us that measure games in cities, and the character has taken or down to luck or whatnot, the idea of or not even just that, the character is able to delve between certain buildings and show a particular experience with dealing with a cityscape and that sort of area. You absolutely can make use of urban survival. However, again, it's the idea that you're in an urban area is going to reduce its usefulness or the genericness of it, but it's still going to be made very useful though. So I'm going to place it up here. Alrighty. So let's move on to veterinary skill. So vet skill, your party may be the one to have a party mascot or party pet. Like, who doesn't like a pet? Who doesn't like having a good old dog meat like in the Todd Howard Fallout games, you know? But, you know, or making a sentient dog character. Would you use urban survival making an oil drum fire? I think it's more of a survival trait. However, I have to double check, because the idea of the elements, using the elements to survive. Yeah, also horses too. Exactly. So, yeah, honestly, yeah, again, Clash, that actually makes me more fond to veterinary skill. I didn't think about that angle to it, because again, there is the idea of course, just using basic first aid. But again, if your horse happens to drink like foul water in like a gritty, low-tech game, then you may have the issue of, well, oh shit, my horse is sick and I can't fucking walk anymore. What am I gonna do? You know? So, yeah, then I definitely would say that it can make good use out of it. In we'll get to falconry, Solid Claw. That's for certain. We'll get to falconry. But yeah, that makes me think more fondly upon veterinary though. So, and there is a viability to it. It is somewhat generic in that, again, your low-tech games may make use of it. But I'm gonna put it right here, actually, right over there. But yeah. Alright, so wrestling. Now, wrestling. Very damn good. There are only 3 main wrestling skills in this game. And wrestling is as the one that is the unscientific one. Is definitely going to be a big contender and one of the higher, more viable traits. Definitely gonna be up there, and generic as well. A lot. You see a lot of animals take wrestling as well. So, for certain, I will take again for characters with Born Biter as well. We'll have a separate Born Biter because you just automatically grapple. But either way, wrestling, I'm gonna say that it's very generic and also very viable. I'm gonna put it right around here. Again, I'm not saying that combat skills are abjectly better than non-combat skills. It's more so that, again, this is just for those who haven't seen the intro. This is assuming that your campaign will find some sort of adversity, so to speak. So yeah, there is that. Oh, DC. Oh, nice. Yeah. So yeah, you're going to be Daniel Cormier. You're probably taking judo more than wrestling, but for certain, yes. Though I'll get the judo as well. Judo's definitely going to be higher in viability wise than wrestling actually, but yes, for certain we'll get into more complex fighting skills. All right, let's get over to artillery actually. So artillery again, weapons skill. Mortars and guided missiles will utilize artillery. But, again, a lot of the time when you're in higher TLs, putting too many points into it is kind of a diminishing return. You're going to have targeting computers help you with a lot of heavy lifting. And either way, artillery in and of itself is a more unwieldy weapon than others that I'll get into shortly. But for now, artillery will be a little bit lower than most of the other weapon skills. But still, again, we're going to hold it high in our hearts. I'm going to put it over here. Less generic, kind of reduced to its own TLs, like 6 or 5, or even 7 sometimes. But even then, it's used sparingly. So, yeah. All right. So, let's move on to below pipe. Again, for the same reasons that artillery is a more niche and unwieldy combat skill. Again, blowpipe, a combat skill, will tend to be higher. However, blowpipe, do you see yourself using a blowpipe even in a TL 1 or 0 game? Blowpipe will not be used at all often. Of course, there's the idea of administering poisons or tranquilizers and like, but it's definitely going to be a one and done ability for certain. So definitely, I would say in this case, I'm just gonna reduce the size of all these right now just to make it a little bit easier. But yeah, reduce the size of all these just to make it a little bit easier, and also to help with the others. All right, so let's move on to bioengineering. Again, certain TLs just can't have this. If you're in a low TL, this does not exist. You know? Higher TLs, however, you can make very good use of this if you're trying to be a just jacked up biotech individual and try to make some terrible things in a petri dish, or be someone who administers a lot of the biotech boons or cybernetics as well. Bioengineering can be very, very useful. However, again, more niche, but also pretty damn viable. So I'm gonna place it a little bit over here, I'd say. All right, artist skill. It's very niche. Or again, a character can take it in most games. However, will it really have all that much use in your games? Not very much. There is the aspect of using art to boost your illusion spells or and of the like. But again, that's so specific. A GM may not even care for that. It may just be your imagination. So I'm gonna put it in more flavorful than not. I'm putting it right down here. I'm sorry to say. Alright. So, let's move on to tracking. Now, getting some good stuff. Again, a lot of characters can have tracking. Again, animals make use of tracking. Like, if a wolf can have tracking, like your character can pick it up, you know, and it's applicable to your game. You know what I mean? And when aren't you trying to find something, whether it be a person or or an object, so to speak? Observation, we're getting to that. Don't worry. I'm not forgotten. I'm going up the whole list. However, I have left out 2 skills. If you can find out which ones they are, good job. But you'll know why I haven't included them for a reason. All right? But yeah, you could guess the ones that didn't include. But tracking, obviously, and also observation will be included as well. Well, even then, I'd say like you have to like an you have like a connoisseur skill in old art. Possibly could be like the knowledge in it, Flash. But tracking definitely will be gonna be more generic and also pretty damn high as well. But I'm gonna place it like more like right over here. And throwing, I'm putting it up this way. All right. All right. So, Solid Claw, you were right for one of them, but I'm not even monetized whatsoever. I don't have enough watch hours, or what's it called? I'm not sure. I think I'm missing like 2 of the requirements to be monetized anyway. So, do makeshift weapons work attack techniques? So actually, there's a good sidebar in martial arts that describes the exact techniques or the exact skills you would use to the exact skills to use for a given like improvised object like a curtain rod actually, like it uses like broadsword or axe mace skill, and it will deal damage depending on how heavy it is or if it's hollow or not. There's a plethora of objects that actually use a various amount of melee weapon skills actually. So definitely check that. Well, yeah. You don't have martial arts. They don't count as techniques. In cane fighting, I would say it probably would be again, it depends, and I'm not gonna say anything, but just look up martial arts. That's all I'll say. GURPS martial arts. But yeah. All right. So let's move on to biology. So again, similar to bioengineering, it's gonna be more or less. It's gonna be less niche than bioengineering, but it will be less will be less viable than bioengineering, I'd say. So I'm gonna put it right around here. Again, obviously, you guys probably can't see any of these things right here, so I'm just gonna like float them up right now for the time being, and then I'll post a larger image of all of these, pretty much. I'll put it even lower, because screw auto hypnosis. I'm trying to build Dr. House. Nice, nice. Alright, so let's move on over to bow skill. Bow skill, bow skill, bow skill. Very good. Somewhat niche because, again, low tech limited. Even in, like, you'll find that even in higher tech games, you can make use of, like, hand-to-hand combat or even melee skill, depending on, like what kind of vibroblades or other sorts of ultra tech materials can exist with melee weapons. So bow, for that reason, will be a bit more niche than others. However, you can't go wrong with bow. If you're in a low TL game, take some bow skill so that you can just like you can just make use of like a sidearm that can shoot things in you can just shoot things from afar. Just take a short bow on your back and take some bow skill and just thank yourself for being able to at least shoot things from afar. Okay. Alright, let's move on to... I already got to body control, have I? Yes, I did. Blind fighting. This situation happens far less than you'd expect. I will tell you that one. And for that reason, it's going to be more niche than not. Because, again, think about it. You can take things like night vision, dark vision, hyperspectral vision, tremor sense, if your game is a, again, both those tremor sense and hyperspectral, or radar sense, those ones will be good for if you're in a powers game. Blind fighting is only good if you are blinded. And either way, if you're blinded in combat, you're probably dead to begin with. So why take this? Just take any other advantages I just mentioned beforehand, and just skip out on it. It can be very useful, but it also is just very niche, and just you won't see it being used. I guarantee you that. It's a very specific situation, and sure, yeah, it can be used in a sense of like combat. Fighting through a wall, blind fighting? No, that'd be fighting through a wall. Well, in the sense that you are shooting through a wall, that's just shooting blind. You're pretty much blind fighting is more so the act of hand-to-hand combat. I could be mistaken, so I'm gonna double check right now, actually. But yeah, I'm going to, even if it's still fighting through a wall, it's a very specific situation. Yeah, but either way, total, yeah, perhaps, yes, but there's going to be a very few situations where you're not going to have a light source whatsoever. Either way, like, you're naked in the dark and have no lantern on you or no torch on you, pretty much. Yeah, it's just, yeah, only like melee attacks, yeah, while blind. Yeah, so yeah, so even then, it's like you can use it for Zen archery, but it's, again, it's, yeah, it's so specific. It's so specific. By the way, let's keep moving on to boxing. Now, boxing is interesting in that it's more niche. I will say boxing is probably a little bit lower than brawling, to be very honest. But it's still very good. If your character is more of an offensive type character and you have other means of dodging, or as far as what's it called? Oh, sorry, my bad. Sorry, if you're less focused on kicking and the like, if you want to, if you have like more arm strength or whatnot, boxing definitely will be the way to go. I will tell you that one. So I'm gonna put it more in the much more in the viable range, but a little bit less generic, I'd say. So like right over here, I'd say, is where it would be. All right, cool. Let's kind of move on to beam weapons. I know an aficionado will be waiting for this one. He's waiting for this one, and then I'll hop off because he disparaged my spot that I put beam weapons on, and I disparaged it too, looking back upon it. Beam weapons, you may not see as being used very often in any other TL other than your good old your good old Ultratech games with lasers and the like. Anything that's TL9 and up. But either way, these will probably be your bread and butter. So I'm putting it up with most of the other combat lists. So I'm going to be putting it up right over here. And with that, I'm also going to place wrestling up a little bit more as well. And also boxing too, to give some more space for the others. But yeah. It was a little bit too low. But either way, let's keep moving. Bolus. Bolus is... There has to be a movie trope to say like how many times a random bounty hunter throws a bolus to like trap a good guy. You know, like where you see the scene where like a random mysterious bandit just throws the bolus and the heroes get trapped and they just fall down the ground squirming. Like that's bolus. Those are those random 2 blocks on sticks that they throw. That's what a bolus is, if you don't know already. It's so specific. It's non-lethal. Of course, if you're trying to like deal with taking prisoners and you don't have like any sort of spell or like guns, like for instance, you don't have like sandbag rounds or any sort of like tear gas to deal with them. Yeah, or net guns. There are net guns as well. But either way, yeah, bolus is a situation where like it can be used in a situation where you don't have access to those sorts of things. But again, non-lethal, A, and B, you throw it once, it's gone. You know, it's less viable for that reason. But also, combat is gonna make it go a little bit higher. But bolus will like probably be around like here, I'd say. All right, so let's move on, shall we? Got carousing. Now we're on to cloak. I hate cloak. I do. Cloak can be very good. Again, it gives you DB, but it's just, and you can wear it too, but it's just gonna be worse than it is just gonna be worse than a shield in essence. In every essence, it's gonna be worse than a shield. So for that reason, again, you have the idea of, again, this basically just only gives you bonus to like, as far as like, again, the only edge that cloak has on shield is that you can feint with it. You can just flap your cloak up and like, whoa, now you see me, now you don't, you just feint at them with your cloak, of course. There's that option to it as well. So I'm just gonna put cloak like, again, generic, and then also you're going to have the idea of, yes, but the fashion, of course, yes, I understand that. But you can just have a cool coat on without dealing with cloak skill, you know what I mean? And I'm biased, so if you're a character or a GM who's made use of cloak, and you want to tell me off, by all means do so. Because I am but a man that has his own biases. All right. So boating can be very, very good if you're in a low-tech game and you're going to be in a seafaring situation. Boating covers a very wide variety of your of areas as well. Again, most of the time your boat is going to be the only way you can get move through large swaths of the land without dealing with much of the tiredness that horses deal with as well. And again, it also boating also controls things like rowboats or larger boats as well, or sailboats too. So again, so you have that option to take boating. Again, and using boating in like higher techs too. So I for certain am going to place it higher on the viable range, but also we'll put it more a little bit more niche wise, I'd say. So yeah, it goes right here. I definitely would say. All right. So. Let's keep moving. So, I put aerobatics, even though it is a specification of acrobatics on here, just to talk about the importance of taking aerobatics as a flying character. Actually, a lot of the maneuvers that require like deft movement will utilize aerobatics. And for that reason, again, it's going to be below acrobatics, but it also is going to, for that reason, it is also, I mean, it's still pretty damn viable. So it's going to be a lot more viable for flying characters, but again, flying character is a pretty niche description of a person. Not everybody can fly. So I'm going to put it like right around like here, I'd say. Alright. Thrown weapon. Throwing knives and the like. Throwing axes, throwing stars. Utilize thrown weapon. Again, this... Again, I'm going to place it less viable than the other combat abilities. I look upon thrown weapon kind of not very fondly. Not very fondly. But again, it has its uses. A character can make... can definitely make good use of it. But also, I'm like, there's the idea of that again. You throw it once, it goes away. Of course, you can have more of them, but what if you have like a javelin on you? And there is the idea of that. Yeah, it is like your one ability to use that. So put some points into it, and then have that on as a secondary. But definitely is not a primary worthy. It's not a primary worthy skill, I'd say. Don't make your character about throw weapons. I'd say that, unless if you want to, unless like you're a complete like skill junkie and want to just like, all right, I have a bajillion throwing stars in hammer space to throw. I'm going to throw all of them as I want. They're all vibroblade throwing stars in hammer space, you know. And I can throw that, you know. Like then by all means, it's gonna be great. But for that reason, it'll be more niche than the other abilities. Which even then, I'm gonna put like boating and artillery. I can't speak. I'm putting throw weapon right over there. What software I'm using right now? I'm using Catwing for this. It's very scuffed, I know. So if this randomly resets itself by any means, I'm probably gonna shoot myself. But I don't think it does. I think it auto saves every time. So even if it did accidentally close this this window, it would still be here, I believe. By the way, let's keep on moving. Anthropology. Now, anthropology is not very useful. Again, a theoretical skill with very little practical uses in a GURPS game. I certainly, again, very interesting in real life. Very, very fascinating in real life. But in a GURPS game where you are making characters that can possibly fight for their lives or try and investigate deep secrets, you can definitely make use of anthropology. But again, it's gonna be on more of a lower scale, I'd say. Again, make a character with points in anthropology to show what they're interested in, obviously, you know. But this isn't gonna be changing any games. Now, combat art. Excalibur. I'm not sure what that is. Is that like an actual like a good software for like dragging things down in here? If so, then I may do a spells tier list, or at least a spells compass in the future using that if that turns out to be a valid option. But either way, combat art. So there is the idea that you can use this to potentially save your own life, but also, how often are you going to be doing blood sports in GURPS and not playing it out act for act for dramatic effect? You know, it's like I'm gonna roll combat art to see if I win this game. I'm gonna sim this game out. You know, like no, that's boring. You know what I mean? That's one cool event that you could be using like in-game character actions to do so. But on the off chance that you decide to do so, make use of it. But again, it's being niche and also kind of flavorful. So I'm putting it right there. It may go for the left, if anything. Brainwashing. A lot of setup required for a very specific outcome. Most games, you may even have this event happen, but you can make good use out of it if you're trying to, you know, completely just destroy the minds of an enemy that you particularly hate, or you're interested in making them do a certain thing for you, or replace their memories, or try and stop somebody from telling the truth. Pretty much, yeah. CIA has entered the chat, pretty much. So, again, this is going to be mainly going to be used in a lot of your typical conspiracy high-tech games, like your Delta Green type games in GURPS. But again, you may not be see that, yeah, very niche, but it can be viable. So I will be putting it like up around like here, much more niche than others. So I probably will place boundarying above brainwashing, actually. But yeah. All right. So, computer hacking. Now, if your game is realistic at all, you will not use this at all. This is completely computer hacking in itself is the art of, in particular, the game itself states that if you're using realistic computer operations and the idea of like realistic quote unquote hacking, this skill is not being used whatsoever, actually. And so you instead use a mixture of things like computer operations or programming or things like social engineering to hack, pretty much, and stealing passcodes and the like. Computer hacking doesn't happen. There's no CSI hacking in real life. You know, if you see the video of two people on one keyboard tapping random keys to try and hack somebody or enhance an image, you know, like if you're playing a pulp game where it's like very much trying to emulate the 80s, so to speak, then computer hacking will be your mojo. But in games that are much more realistic, this does not exist. So for that reason, again, you can make a lot of good use out of it. However, it's going to be more niche than not. It's going to be right here. Yeah, I'm in is like, you know, is like the key phrase to that, pretty much. So in this case, you know, I wouldn't use this in most of my games, but if you're in like making a Rambo style or like a Terminator style like game that's like, you know, off the walls and crazy, you may use a lot of the computer hacking. Yeah, exactly. I want to download more RAM, you know? Just for the hell of it, exactly. Body language already got over. Chemistry. So, chemistry, you're not really going to be doing Walter White stuff with this. It's more so the act of... Well, actually, no, you can use Walter White stuff with this, but chemistry in and of itself is more of the theoretical act of being well-versed in... again, chemistry itself. And I'm not a very smart person. I'm not an engineer. So those who can explain like the theoretical abilities of chemistry will make use of this. You know what I mean? So in my games, I typically just leave it up to the people who know more than me about certain things. I let the rules do the work for it. You know what I mean? In this case, this is one of those skills, much like biology and bioengineering, wherein chemistry can do a lot in the right hands. Well, Walter's like a genius. So probably around like 14 or higher. He's very, very crafty individual. So I'm putting chemistry around, like, again, treat chemistry similar again, ventriloquism I'm going to place it even lower, I realize, more flavorful than anything else. Chemistry will be right here. I'm pushing ventriloquism aside. Alright, so, moving on. Theology. Again, you can make use of it in magical games, in which you are dealing with like very physical, tangible gods that can affect your game. You know what I mean? Or in the sense of like learning more about a certain like faction or cabal. But even then, you may find your GM, like myself, would be using things like occultism, or hidden lore, or thaumatology, you know? You'll see much less of theology being used in my games, I think. So, theology is going to be more of a, again, much of the theoretical skills. It'll be down right here. But again, you have that aspect of like you could tie it in with history or lore-based abilities in your other games, so that could be a little more viable than the others, albeit a bit more niche than some. So I'm gonna put it like right around here. Okay, so let's keep on moving. Computer programming. This is one of those, again, if you're doing a real life hacking in your game, this would be one of those skills to take if you're trying to do it at a quote-unquote hack, you know? So this one is going to be more generic and a little bit less viable, obviously, computer hacking, but still very generic. So I'm going to place this right over here. Yeah, I'm putting this right here. What would differentiate theology from worship? Well, it depends on what worship grants you in your games. You see, theology is just knowing about the gods. You can have a theology degree and not worship them, you know? So, yeah, there is that fact about it. Like, if worship being tangible in your games will be something like clerical, would be something like power investiture, or clerical, I forgot the exact name of it, but clerical something, you know? There's that advantage called clerical investment, I believe, wherein you're accepted or even revered in a church-like community. But power investiture in games where you are being pious gives you power, tangible, physical power, then that will be power investiture. Alright, so, moving on. Counterfeiting. There's the idea of setup, the stream resolution or volume. Is it too low, Prince Lonia? Prince of Lonia? If the resolution is too low, I'm sorry. It's because this list in particular, I have to zoom in more and more to get to each individual spot right here. So you guys will be able to zoom in more, and I can show you guys a little bit of a snapshot of the list in particular. Like, you can see viable right here, and you can see flavorful right here, and more of these things. But showing the entire thing will kind of pretty much reduce the resolution of the stream in and of itself. But I can zoom in if needed, whenever I need to. It's capped at 720p. It is. I could sworn it should be 1980 by 10, not 20 by 1080. But if it's the other one, then I'm not gonna. What's it called? I'm trying to say. Yeah, when you zoom in, you definitely zoom in more. The way I'm working this list itself is that I'm pretty much presenting each individual card right here, and then I'm gonna reduce it, and then also eventually release it later on when I finish this. So what is the cap view? What the hell? It should be 1920 by 1080. What the hell? I'm gonna try my very best to make sure it is the full resolution. You know what I mean? So I do not like having the stream at 720 right now. I do not like that idea. But anywho, for now, I'm just gonna keep it as is and see if I can edit it later on. But counterfeiting in particular, I am going to place counterfeiting in a little bit of a the thing is you can make good use of it, but it's kind of a slow burn ability, so to speak. Again, when you're thinking about the ability to and it definitely would be viable, but again, it is like more of a niche skill in that it takes time. You may like in higher TLs you may see yourself using computer programming or hacking to mess with digital documents and the like, but definitely counterfeiting has a good definitely have a good spot in more social games as well. So I definitely will place it like a viable right here. I'm gonna put acting up a little more, computer hacking even more. I'm gonna smush counterfeiting right in here. All right, sweet. Yeah, more niche than forgery for certain. Now, Teamster. Teamster, it's not the ability to be a mobster that works with that works with trucks. Teamster in particular is the ability to work a truck pretty much. It's like the it's pretty much like ship captain, but for a large truck and hauling vehicle. So for that reason, again, if you're playing like a long haul high TL game, you may make use of it. But again, it's going to be a specific scenario that you can just put a couple points into. Right? Again, you can even then like in lower TLs, it has worth to it if you're like riding a horse-drawn carriage. But either way, like again, it'll be using much more riding skill either way. It's be more niche than riding, and a little bit less viable because a failure is much less possibly disastrous than a failure at driving, I'd say. So I'm just going to place it at a little bit of a niche spot, but not too unviable, I'd say. I'm gonna move some of these apart right now just to make it more differentiated at present, so you guys can tell where each individual spot is. I'll add borders to all these individual spots right here as well. Yeah, exactly. If again, a lot of these will depend on the GM too, so there is that aspect to it. But other than that, again, it's like there are going to be skills that are much more like forward, front. All right, cool. Yes, we have all these skills right here, all together now. Let's see. All right, sweet. Moving on. Crewman actually has some uses. It's, again, a very generic skill, I definitely would say. However, there's not too much viability to it, but it can be used to a great degree, I'd say. It's sort of like the soldier for more routine acts on a ship or a spaceship, for instance, or like a any sort of like a ship's crew, so to speak. So I definitely would put crewman in more of a generic skill list because again it has a mixed bag, so to speak, of abilities. I'm gonna put it like right over here. Would you use it in the tank? You see, a tank itself is going to be more of piloting and gunner and artillery as well, rather than crewman. Because again, yeah, because it all depends on what your individual justification of a tank itself is. I have not played games with. The thing is, me as a GM, I'm vehicle averse GM. If other GMs can probably speak for me, and that we are kind of vehicle averse in GURPS when it comes to that. The loader itself could be just fast draw or soldier skill as well. Again, there is absolutely a sidebar on tanks in high tech as well. But crewman in and of itself, I don't think it counts for too small of vessels. I think it's mainly about like a person like, hey, I'm the guy. Yeah, it's a large vehicle, a shipboard. If anything, you could justify it as a yeah, you could definitely justify it as somebody again. So like a yeah. The problem is the crewman skill only really only mentions like airships or sea ships or spaceships or submarine. So yeah, it doesn't mention a tank itself. Yeah, so crewman's be right over here. It's generic right here, kind of generic. Because I would definitely say that it has a mixed bag of various things, whether it be on a of course requires a large vehicle, but again you can definitely have a lot of cases where if anything I probably would put if one would be definitely more generic than crewman, so put it like right over here in essence. All right, so cooking. You do not need cooking skills to cook. This is again a misconception that looking at the skill itself may cause. Cooking is just the ability to cook well. So if you're trying to make a three-course meal with good old names and good seasoning, then cooking will be the skill you take. But just to put a skinned rat on a stick over a fire does not require a cooking skill. That would be more of a survival skill anyway. So for that reason, cooking is going to be much more niche. Not much more niche. It'll be generic, but more flavorful than anything. So this would be one of the few things that's like over here, I'd say. All right, so let's move on over to crossbow. All right, it's the crossbow. Sorry for the flashbang, guys. It's the crossbow versus bow wars. Honestly, again, it sounds like a cop out, a complete cop out, but I'm gonna place them with the same rank because one character's strength of the crossbow can be one character's. Again, you can completely like mix and match as far as what maybe more niche than the other. But I may just put them on similar ranks. Crossbow maybe a little bit more niche than bow because again, it facilitates a little bit less parts of tech levels. But either way, they're the same viability. I put them. All right, so let's keep moving on. Thaumatology. I am biased towards this skill in particular, and as a guy who likes playing more like supernatural games, I tend to utilize this one a lot. But however, it's niche and can only really be used for certain characters. Not all characters may take it, but I'll put it like right around here, I'd say. I'm gonna put it right around here. So we'll get over to Ritual Path Magic is that's the thing. It could use Thaumatology, or it could use Ritual Path Magic as a skill. So there's that aspect also to Thaumatology as well. So there are those aspects to discuss. So that makes me a little bit want to put it a little more viable, but still in the same tier of niche. However, I'm gonna place it like over here, I'd say. All right, cool. Moving on, dreaming. Very niche, not all that viable. It's cool in the one scenario that where you have a magician meddling with your mind and meddling with your dreams, but again, are you gonna see this being used all too often? No. Are you gonna see it changing the course of a session, let alone a game? No. So for that reason, it's going to be very niche and very flavorful, I'd say. And it's only like is an aspect in that like dreams can be messed with, and even then, you can you take skill into it and have it come into effect in a game. All right, diagnosis skill. All right, get into some of the more healing based skills. Diagnosis, again, most of the time when someone's hurt, you'll know. Most of the time, you are going to know why somebody is hurt and how to help them. Like you're going to see like all right, wow, I wonder what happened. The arrow was in his chest. I wonder how to help him. You know, like that sort of thing. But in other cases, you may not know why somebody's sick. You know, taking diagnosis could be very useful for a character who is like if you're dealing with a lot of like things like sepsis or cholera in games where again you're lower TL or even higher TLs that have less less means to heal somebody, like in an after the end style game where sickness is rampant and festering diseases are all over the place. You know, diagnosis could be your saving grace here. So I'm gonna put it more on the niche side, but also on a more viable edge. Let me just put it. I have a lot of these, and they can definitely their spot can definitely change as well. Don't forget that. So I'm gonna place some more of these up here. And acting, you also have the idea of like extended lives too. If your character's like a trader as well, acting can be put to very good use if like you're extending for an extended period. You are going to Bolas again, very niche. Counterfeiting. Alright, cool. Team Circle is something pretty low though. We have Diagnosis, which is going to be a little bit higher than that. A little bit niche, but also pretty damn viable. Alright, cool. So, back to it. Let's move on to Disguise. Again, Disguise, there's the aspect of a setup as well, wherein you have to find the proper makeup or find the proper tools to make yourself look different. There is, again, to the good effect of hiding your identity, but again, there also is, again, you have setup. I'd say it's going to be flavorful and also pretty niche. So like right over here. I'm going to start putting this up over here more because I realize that it's going to be a little bit overpopular because a lot of like weird skills that like can apply to a lot of different games that also will be All right, cool. Sorry. Just moving stuff. We have a lot of skills to get to. But yeah, now I moved. Yeah. All right, cool. Driving. You'll probably see me one of my tirades about the skill in particular. Driving skill. If you are in a high-tech level, you must have driving skill. If your character is in a TL above, 6 and above, I'd say, is the cutting off point. If you don't have driving skill, what are you doing? Take driving in some degree. Just put 1 or 2 points in it, and you are going to be all the better for it. Okay? Listen. The oil industry is going nowhere. They will keep making you drive cars everywhere. There's no public transport that is reliable. So driving, we're forced to drive. It sucks, but here we go. In your games, you'll be forced to drive. And if you fail your driving check, obviously, again, there are aspects of GURPS where it makes driving a lot easier. Of course, like a routine drive will be like very easy to do. But there are also instances where, like, if you're in the rain as well, or in the dark, or if your character is, gone on a bender and wants to drive home, like, pass me the keys, But yeah, take some driving skill for your character so you can, like, do some, again, travel places in a higher TL game. So for that reason, it's going to be very, very generic, but also, again, very generic, but also somewhat viable as well. Yeah, if a deer is on the road, swerving in the way of out of the way of a deer will be one of those situations where if you don't have driving, you're screwed. Dancing. Again, another one of those skills that is an artful act. There is the idea of, like, being able to do it in a party, so to speak, which will make it more viable, but also it is still going to be very, very niche. So I'm going to be putting it right over here. Engineer. Again, one of those, like, tinkerer abilities are going to be in a bit of its own niche spot, but also it's definitely a good one to take if you are going to be a tinkerer kind of class of character, I'd say. It can be made very viable, but also requires a bit of setup as well. I'm going to make Binary a little bit smaller for that reason. So yeah, but engineer will be, like, right over here. All right, cool. Let's keep moving. Throwing arts. Again, requiring trained by a master or weapon master is going to put it automatically in this little square right here. Most of the time, that is. Or at least in this half of the hemisphere. A 30-point ask or less is pretty high, to be very honest. So for that reason, throwing art is going to be going in this side right here. There is a pretty, you can use it to a good degree if you're in a combat character in the heat of combat. However, again, there is that aspect of the like, why would you want to just toss a thing without, like, rhyme or reason as well? So, and throwing art can be viable, made viable in combat, throwing out a very comically large table, or anything like a high TL, obviously, and, like, in a funny way too. Throwing can be made more viable for that reason. I'll be putting it in more of a niche section because again, throwing will be the default skill for those sorts of attacks. All right, electrician. I'm gonna be putting this one in more of a generic sense, or maybe not generic. Electrician in and of itself isn't going to be all too generic. However, it does have its own own use in and of itself. Again, it's about building electrical systems and being able to understand what's the issue with one as well. It's almost like a diagnose skill to understand what anything hooked up to energy could be wrong with that sort of thing. So you can definitely make a lot of uses with it. So for that reason, it's gonna be more generic skewed, but also I still will probably put it in a little bit of a niche tier. All right, right over there. Okay, so moving on. Dropping skill actually isn't all too bad. Again, this is for things dropping things from above, obviously. So there is the idea of like, all right, it's a little bit niche. Like, when will you be in that scenario? But you know, again, it's like if you're doing siege combat, you can make good use of it. Again, a very specific scenario, obviously. Or like, oh, maybe I'm in a plane or dropping bombs and shit. Or if I'm a flying character and dropping a fucking like an evil potion on somebody, you know, then dropping will be pretty useful. But even then, I definitely would say it's pretty niche. So I'm going to be putting it in more of a less. I say more or less. I'm gonna be putting it in a less viable spot, I'd say. All right. Moving on. Oh yeah, oh my god, why did I assume that it is when on a siege? No, you're not. It's only when flying. Thanks for that, aficionado. I was almost about to put it too high. So yeah, if anything, I'd make it even more niche and replace it with disguise. Yeah, it goes right there. There we go. It is now in its proper space. Do you think templates work against the nature of GURPS? Templates aren't against the nature of GURPS because a lot of them, in essence, actually give you a good amount of options to choose choose multiple options, and you can mix and match templates, or even just take things out of a template as well. They're actually going to be very helpful for new players as well. So definitely not completely antithetical to GURPS, because the idea of a template is that you can make them beforehand as well. You can add or subtract skills or attributes depending on your world too. So definitely they're not antithetical to the nature of GURPS being flexible. Actually, I feel like it's a good like a beam on a growing plant. You wish it to grow nice and tall. You know, that's what a template is. That's what a lot of other like templates or combat sessions, like test sessions would be to new players. Definitely make use of templates. All right, so back to it. Let's move on to environment suit. Environment suit. If you are in a high TL and you don't have environment suit, you may be at risk of dying. If you are dealing in space and going at all those freaky if you're going into the freaky outdoors where there's a lot of messed up, there are a lot of very messed up atmospheres, or no atmosphere, for instance, or a lot of radiation. Environment suit, being able to flip in and out of your suit can save your life and deal with any sort of contusions or the like as well. Environment suit can be very, very useful. Again, niche due to the fact that it is, viable niche, I definitely would say. Because again, it's only really going to be used in higher TLs, but very niche. Sorry, very viable. Alrighty. Let's get a move on. Enthrallment. Again, that's only really going to work for certain styles of games, wherein you are, again, like as in games that have more of a magical framework to them, but they are pretty damn viable, I would say. But either way, I would probably put enthrallment in more of a I'm probably put enthrallment in a far left niche side of it rather than a generic side, and even then, how viable there depends on which one you took as well. So there's that aspect to it, like if captivate versus suggest or persuade as well could be much more useful. So yeah. All right. I'm sure we'll play with brainwashing because there is more of a there's more of an on-the-fly aspect to enthrallment as well, which makes it more viable in my thoughts. All right, so exorcism, a lot of setup for a very specific type of magical game. If you're doing like Christian horror, like the Conjuring, or whatever, like that sort of thing, exorcism can be very, very useful. But in most games, it will not be very useful. And for that reason, I'm just going to be placing it right over here, next to these skills right over here. All right, so. Sorry, just moving around right now. Let's move on to electronics repair, actually. So, again, similar to electrician, it's not really going to be all too niche, but also, again, in a middle of the road viable sort of way. Exorcism isn't only the Christian kind; it's just a spirit in general. I was using it as an example. It's just generally moving possession from a character's body, and it's an act of a ritual, you know. And it's the fact that it's a evil spirit as well, and not just a magician trying to so trying to drive a spirit away from someone, not just a possession spell, for instance. All right, electronics repair. I'm gonna be putting in similar to electrician. There's more viability to it, but there also is more aspects of nicheness to it. Again, it's just assuming a thing is broken rather than just a more of a routine fixing. So it'll be more niche but more viable in essence. Let's move the actually, let's see. What's up here? Why not? Actually, no. I'll make it more clear for you guys to see it. See the tiers and whatnot. The skill set of a modern day small child. Again, you're gonna have things like maybe like running or singing skill. Even then, they wouldn't have all that many skills by any stretch. Like either way, it'd be like things at like 10 or 11 at the very most. Someone who has a trade has 12 skill, for instance. So like an average person who has a trade has 12 skill. So kids will be defaulting a lot. All right, so escape skill. Again, kind of a specific situation. Not all too specific. If you're a GM that is more likely not to take captives, escape can be very, very useful for a certain player who finds themselves getting caught often or not. This could be a game-changing one for certain, escape. But again, how often do you find you're going to find yourselves in that state of affairs is it depends entirely. So I will say I'm going to put it more viable than bicycling for certain. I'm going to put it right here. All right, so okay, let's keep moving. Zen archery. This one's funny because, and due to being a chi based or trained by master, sorry, not chi based, trained by master skill, it's going to be very niche. However, it's going to be a very, very viable one if you are an archer and wish to really get those trick shots going. I'm going to put it right here, actually. Pretty high, top left right here. But it may change, who knows. You can get really good, like, pot shots on people from far away. I'm taking good amount of time. Like, really have those, and just, like, really, really reduce brain penalties to an insane degree. Expert skill. Now, this one is kind of an interesting one because there are a few ones that actually can be treated as very, very applicable to other things, but other ones are going to be much less useful for certain games. So for that reason, I will be just treating it in its totality rather than just one of its abilities. However, there's a lot of abilities that you can choose. You had to specify. That's the main bad part about it. But there is like things like natural philosophy that are super useful in low-tech games that where the physics, the art, the sciences and physics don't exist. Natural philosophy is what replaces them, pretty much. So, natural philosophy will probably be much more viable and niche right here, but there are other ones that are like Egyptology, like that's so specific and it's so niche for a certain kind of game. So, however, it encapsulates a lot of it. So I'll think about it, but I'm thinking of making it more on the flavorful side. But you can put some good use to it though. All right. All right. So let's keep on going. Fast talk. Here we go. Now we're getting to the really, really good stuff. Fast talk is exact middle, you think? Or no, it's probably delayed, I believe. May have been talking about expert skill. Exact middle could be a fun one for expert skill. Perhaps like connoisseur at exact middle, I'd say, because the most like milk toast option. Yeah, fast talk is gonna be one of those that's like up here. And if it will say fast talk is like right here. The aspect of being able to use it in combat is going to definitely propel this. But also, who doesn't know how to convince somebody of something? Or like doing an elevator pitch, pretty much. or again, just like this sort of skill, it's cheap, it's easy to justify having it as well. So, and also it's applicable to most games. Most games. Of course, there's the aspect of like intelligent enemies and intelligent characters like being able to use it and whatnot. So yeah, there's that. But like fast talks can be very, very high up and very generic for certain characters. All right, so falconry. Here we go. We're on falconry now, guys. Oh god, there's still so many to go too. Oh my god, we still have so many to go. It's gonna be a long night, fellas. All right, so time for falconry. Very, very specific. You need a falcon companion, A. B, you are not interested in its longevity to use it in combat to any degree. And C, you have to control it and all of its. This is like in essence like you bought an ally summonable and like you're not able to control it in particular. It's just I wouldn't even call it. I'm just looking at it right now. It's very, very. I'm putting it right here. It's like right here. All right, so moving on. I'm gonna have to go a little bit faster. Who knows? Who knows? Weird science. Weird science is going to be very niche, but can be very, very good. So I'm gonna put it like right over here. It can really propel, like absolutely propel the TL of your games. A character with weird signs can really screw up the game, and really affect it to like insane amounts. Definitely very specific. Not all games will even allow this skill, let alone like use it to its full extent. So there's that. But yeah. All right, so we now have typing skill. Ah, yes. One of those generic but flavorful skills. Finally. I mean, some things to put in the bottom right. Like, there's nothing down there right now. I need to populate it a little bit more. So, yeah, for certain flavor, it's going to be in more of a flavorful tier. Because, again, who doesn't want to be able to type pretty fast as well? And this is the act of typing on a typewriter as well. Or, yeah, as far as word per minute, because in essence, it can be like right over here, I'd say. Yeah, so sadly, it'll be right over there. All right, so I'm just moving the list over here, so yes, I'm gonna flashbang again. All right, filch skill. Who doesn't want to be able to steal things in plain sight? Who doesn't want that ability? It's generic. I'm gonna put it a little bit closer to flavorful. There's that tangible use for this one, but again, it's pretty damn generic too. But also there's the aspect of it's hard to justify utilizing it sometimes, but housekeeping is a great combat skill, of course. Oh yeah, I'm pretty close right here. We'll see where it goes later on. I may adjust it later on. I have to move faster with this. I realize I'm like spending a lot of time on a lot of tangents. All right, so fire eating. Why is this a skill? Why whatsoever is fire eating a skill? I don't get why it's a skill. I really don't. It's going to be absolutely niche and absolutely flavorful. Right here. Going right here. To front. All right, sweet. Excellent. All right, so let's keep moving on. Writing. And the ability to write pretty letters and whatnot is definitely going to be more on the generic side, of course, but also more flavorful. I feel like I'm gonna put this right over here. Okay, all right. Esoteric medicine. If your GM is a they/them crystal girl, or if your game takes place in a more of a low TL game, you'll be using this as your main, pretty much medicine skill. However, for other games, it won't be all too useful, I'd say. Esoteric medicine is going to be in. I'd say it's gonna be a. I'm probably gonna place it right over here, or maybe over here instead. In that, it again could be used a lot. Not used a lot, but it can be used in specific games. I'll probably just put it like over here instead, actually, with some use to it. That's the problem. It's kind of hard to move all this around. All right, so let's do some more of this. Criminology. It's criminology if you're playing a again it's a hard skill, so more niche. B, you can definitely make good use out of it in investigative games, but a lot of it is analyzing criminal psyche rather than more of the nitty gritty investigative work, like looking for clues and whatnot. So I'm gonna put it in a more of a niche and flavorful part of the list. But still, you can definitely use it to change the course of the game. It's just that it's kind of going to be a. It's good to put a couple points into, but like really like how often are you gonna roll against it? You know what I mean? All right, I'm putting it right here. All right, so let's go ahead on and go for cartography. If you're playing in a game that that deals with a lot of analog maps and the like, then cartography will keep you from getting lost. You don't want to get lost. Reading maps, writing down maps, making sure you're following a map properly, cartography will be the one pretty much to keep you guys from getting lost pretty much. So definitely take some form of cartography on your low tech characters. Definitely. However, again, I'm going to be putting it in again a bit of a niche spot, but also again, it's can be pretty damn useful for games where you're trekking far and wide. So I'm putting it right over here, pretty much, to adjust the traps a little bit. All right, up right here. There we go. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get ourselves over to explosives. If you don't want to die in handling hazardous materials or handling like detonators and the like, definitely take explosive. Again, very useful for higher tech games where you're dealing with like C4s and the like, you know, and you can use it in combat. So that there is a combat skill as well, in that sense. But also it's gonna be a little bit more niche. So I'm gonna be placing it like around like. I'd probably say I'll replace it with traps, pretty much. All right, cool. Let's see now. Alrighty, let's move on over to. We're getting a soldier right now. We're kind of the skills themselves are a little bit out of order, but we'll get there. Don't worry. Soldier will be definitely up there. I'd say is in viable and generic. I'd say. Well, even then, it requires a soldier character, but the amount of things that it can do are it definitely would bump it up into more of a generic territory. But anyway, let's keep moving on. We just got over to explosive. Now we're getting on to flying leap. Again, flying leap is going to assume that you have the is going to assume that you have trained by a master, and and power blow and jumping as well. By the way, so just a tidbit on that. Again, most of the trained by master skills again are going to be in more of the niche tier. Just because again, it's a heavy ask to add a player say, hey, by the way, spend 30 points please for this skill, you know. So low point characters are not going to be able to use that. So I'm going to be placing it at a niche tier. You can certainly make good use out of it, but again, take super jump, you know, or just raise some of your strength or dex or just jumping skill in particular as well. So there's that as well. There are other more convenient and definitely more viable alternatives to taking flying leap. All right, so let's move on to connoisseur. Connoisseur will probably be our first dead in the middle. Maybe not be dead in the middle, because, well, probably, no, actually, no, yes, dead in the middle, I'd say. Because the manner in which connoisseur is used is pretty much like, huh, you're cool. I like that you're cool at this thing. I enjoy it too. +1 to or sorry, you get like, you know, +1 to a certain role, you know. So in that essence, it is like viable, and also there is the idea that it is that it can like be about any particular individual skill, but you do not skill any particular interest, but you do have to specialize. So there's that, you know. But I'm gonna put it right in the middle, just as a little meme, for instance. But it goes right there, I'll say. Okay, okay. Alrighty. Let's see. Let me just get on over. Fortune telling. Again, in games where fortune telling may be more viable, I certainly would. Oh, sorry. In games where fortune telling legitimately is like, that's the thing. This isn't really like actual fortune telling. It's more so about cold reading, so to speak. So if you are somebody who is trying to con somebody or trying to like learn more about them by pretty much like asking them blanket questions, you're going to be like, using that will be pretty damn good to again, yeah, to influence somebody. Just right, Lucas. And where it is like you can use that to pretty much learn more about them, especially if they believe in it too as well. If they're stupid enough to believe in fortune telling, and you can just like you can con them pretty much, then you can really tell them a lot of things about themselves and manipulate them. So there is that use to it, but again, the setup's so particular as well, and also you're assuming that someone is going to fall for it as well. So I'm definitely going to say it'll be more niche on the side of niche. Bring to front. front. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna put like right over here, I'd say. Okay, so let's move on, shall we? To fishing. Again, fishing, it can be pretty niche as far as a hunting skill goes. Fishing is its own skill, just because it like it's the fact that you're dealing with water and like nets and like it's definitely different than other types of hunting, but I definitely would say that it's a little bit less viable than like just a blanket survival skill goes. So for that reason, it's going to be rather generic, but also just not very viable as well. All right, it's going right over here. Okay. I'm glad you're enjoying Cantastropus. Listen, like again, this will be posted, and then also later I'll edit it down to edit out all my tangents and stutters and like, but and also just some choice examples of using the skills as well, or addendums too. So there's that, because I imagine there'll be a few people yelling at me in the comment section saying like, you could use finance to great uses, that sort of thing. But yeah. No, it's not over at all. We have we have a ways to go, my friend. You have this is not the end right now. We still have a ways to go. So, all right, let's keep going, shall we? This is a marathon, guys. I'm working from home tomorrow, so I don't care about staying up late. Let's do this. How many points I get for it? Again, it's probably a minor, odious personal habit. Alright, so. Back to it. Forgery. Again, as one commenter said, forgery is probably a little more applicable than counterfeiting. Because obviously counterfeiting does have the aspect of money, but forgery is best for documents in particular. Again, like you may same with like counterfeiting. Forgery can be like in higher TLs can be replaced with like a lot of computer programming or hacking checks to make it more for like the credits, quote unquote, for money and the like. So I definitely will place it wherever counterfeiting is, replace it above it. This list has gotten so damn jumbled up with stuff that it's just hard to find stuff too. I'm placing forgery right over here. Here we go. Alright. Bring to front. Alright, sweet. Let's do this. And now, let's get ourselves going on to the next one. Astronomy. Astronomy has some uses in certain campaigns or where that employ like divination magics and the like, or even some magical systems are based on the stars as well, or like there is the aspect of how it can be used as a default for navigation, or I believe cartography as well, mapping the stars as well, and also the idea of certain certain ultra tech games utilizing astronomy to get around pretty much can also be pretty useful. But other than that, I really it's gonna be hard to justify astronomy being used all too much. So for that reason, I'm gonna be placing astronomy in more of a niche tier, but definitely above the other more theoretical, studious skills. It can certainly be used to a greater degree, I'd that say? All right. First aid. Here we go. More generic skills. Every character should have first aid as well. Certainly. It is one of those like high tier, like stabilizing abilities that can save someone's life from bleeding, for instance, or from any sort, and just like a quick spot check heal, pretty much, to staunch any more HP loss, for instance. So, for certain, take some first aid if you're expecting to be dealing with a war zone or any sort of large combat, whether it be prolonged or otherwise. So yeah, absolutely take first aid. I'm placing it like right over here, right next to like fast talk, pretty much, and the other like excellent skills. Okay. Let's move on to archaeology. Again, there's the aspect of discovery and dealing with archaeological sites as well, and like delving, which places it above like these other theoretical skills. But again, just doing like, as any archaeologist will tell you, archaeology is a lot more boring than it is in movies. So I'm gonna be placing it like over here. Even then, it's more viable. I'm placing it like over here, probably. All right, cool. Alrighty. Now let's get a move on over to game skill. Wow, the act of playing games in the game. That's so meta. That's so meta, guys. But either way, games in and of itself is, again, a pretty generic skill. Who doesn't know how to play a game of cards or play it well, for instance? You know? This isn't the act of betting. Betting is later on, I believe. Or gambling. Sorry, gambling is the skill name, not betting. But having some games should be good. You should definitely like take some game skill just to like pass the time. You know what I mean? So definitely very generic, but also very flavorful. So I'm gonna put it like near like the cooking and fishing skills, for instance. Not quite as viable as the others, but you know, I'll put cooking like over here as well. Okay, so let's keep going. Gardening. Maintaining your own little ecosystem can have a lot of important repercussions for your games, especially in conjunction with any form of herbology skill or herb lore skill. So, for certain, I would say that gardening skill is pretty useful. But also, again, as far as viability goes, it's going to be too great. Isn't going to be too great, but certainly pretty good. I'm putting it like right over here. All right. Breath control. Again, similar to like body control, breath control will also be one of those where it's like a very specific use of your body, especially in conjunction with like the cost of it as well, and how specific of a use you may have for it. So for that reason, it's going to be going next to body control, right over here. All right, so let's keep moving on, shall we? Alrighty, so Garrett, if you want to be Agent 47, by all means, take Garrett. But again, strangulation, like in real life, takes a long time in GURPS to do. If you're behind somebody, you're better off stabbing him in the head, or in the throat, or in the back, or just anywhere else, with any weapon other than a Garrett, pretty much, you know? So, there is that factor. Of course, being a combat skill, and assuming that we are in a combat-based game with physical adversities and whatnot, and combat occurring, it'll be more viable and generic by that reason. But it's going to be in a similar situation to our blowpipe, wherein it's I'm going to put blowpipe a little bit up more as well. I'm going to put Garrett in a similar spot as blowpipe. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely very. Mono Garrett. Oh, just cut somebody's head off. But all right. Next, economics. Again, this is not like in practice like merchant skill, or even like accounting skill is. Econ is like theoretical, like if you want to be Adam Smith in your games, go ahead. But again, it's not you're not going to find all that much use in your setting taking economics. I'm sorry to say. All right. Let's keep on going. I'm trying to go fast. Trying to go faster now because I realize how much time has elapsed in this review. It is just a ridiculous amount of time has elapsed. Oh my god. All right, so group performance. Like with acting, if your party is one of those parties that wants to like try and infiltrate with an enemy by faking a combat, like a choreographing, like, oh, who is this dastardly lad trying to take my place? Like, help me, guards, help me, fellow guards. I suppose you can make use of that in that sort of sense, but it's so specific, and even then, the bonus that you get from it is really not going to be all that like great. And even then, like this is like the ability to like make a play happen. This isn't all too useful for like actual play, you know. So sure, yeah, if you're playing like as actors, group performance would be great, but in a game where you guys are being, again, it's not gonna be very useful. Sorry to say. All right, so keep on going. Hazardous materials can save your life, obviously. Again, because the pretenses of this skill in particular is that you are pretty much, if you're dealing with, like for instance, if you're playing like a Fallout type game, you know, where like you're dealing with a lot of like radioactive materials and whatnot, and don't already have environment suit skill, definitely take some of this, but you may not see it being used all too much in a lot of your games. Hey, if you're Walter White though, he'll definitely have this, you know? I'll tell you that one. Again, defaulting on this isn't good. Again, it's -5 default. So if you happen to be using, trying to like deal with a comically green barrel of sludge, then definitely don't touch it without hazardous materials. So, again, very niche, but potentially, yes, definitely the martial arts book. Absolutely, you need that. You need that. All right. Yep. Let's see. So, let's see. Move on. Let's go on. Let's put it right over here, I'd say. Okay, so forced entry. Solid Claw was talking about a was talking about the I believe he called it the breaking skill, I believe, or breaking in skill, whatever he called it. But that is this. Forced entry is pretty damn good, But I definitely would say it's generic, but like the boons that you can get from it are less so. I explained it before, but like they're less so good on stronger characters or characters that have more access to tools. So if you're a more lower point character or a poorer character, taking forced entry can be very, very useful. Now where'd it go? Because I had forced entry somewhere, but it's now gone. Oh, here it is. Bring to front. I'm putting it right here, I'd say. There's so many skills in this game. Oh my god. It's ridiculous. But I love it so much. Current affairs. Some GMs may want you to have this to be able to stay with the times, so to speak. If you are someone with current affairs, being able to call upon the skill and know what's happening without any other prior intel could be very useful. How many we got left to go? Too many. I really can't count because like there's so many to scroll right now. I believe we're like almost halfway. It's crazy. It's crazy, my dude. It's nuts. I may have to tucker out midway through. Who knows? Because the last time I had recorded this, it was like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and right now we're 2 hours in, and we're like, it's crazy. I may have to do a second part of this stream. I honestly might have to. I don't want you guys to. No. I'm going as far as I can. Let's do it. Guys. If anything, the upper limit should be 4 hours. How about that? If it's not to my 4 hours, I'm cutting it short and doing a second part. How about that? Okay, so current affairs again. GMs may use it to keep tabs on like local gossip and the like, but some may not. So I'm gonna put it in more of a generic skill with a little bit more of a flavorful edge to it. All right. So, electronics operation. We one of those niche. It's going to be niche and generic, I'd say. I'm gonna get more into placing them more slowly now. I realize, or not slowly, getting more into placing things faster and justifying it afterwards or adjusting it later on. All right, cool. Placing more things around. More shuffling. All right, heraldry. For GMs that are more of a crunchy, are more of a crunchy and social-based TL3 style social hierarchy games, heraldry can be very useful for those games. Not all GMs will use that, like to recognize a given house's flag or coat of arms, so to speak. but others may actually make use of make use of heraldry a lot, or others may just say, "Hey, make an IQ check. If you succeed on it, then you pretty much if you use heraldry, it's gonna be very useful to like recognize certain coats of arms, but other than that, I'd say it's pretty niche, and even then, in the context of its own game, would be pretty flavorful, I'd say. So I'll say it's like over here. All right. You are very fair, STM. I probably should put it more to the left, if anything. I probably would put it like right over here, because you could justify it being used for other items, I could say, but in the case of the skill in and of itself, yeah, the way the rules is written, the way that electronics operation really kind of is, but also being used in conjunction with other electronic skills too is like is fair, but also like using a radio isn't like, you know, being able to work it in certain areas. I feel like makes it a little bit more generic than anything. All right, so geography. Geography is going to be a little bit less useful than you think. It's not quite a tracking or cartography or navigation goes, but hey, it can be. There are some certain specializations that are better than others. Again, knowing more about regions and like can have their uses, but even then, I probably will place it closer to a niche, flavorful skill. Because again, it being an IQ hard skill and all, may make you more privy to more subtle differences about certain nations, but will be used a little bit less than others. Yeah, exactly. Never like you'll use other skill like navigation or cartography rather than geography instead. So I definitely would say like closer to like flavorful than niche. All right, all right. Let's see. Let's see. Oh my god, yeah, we were streaming for 2 hours and 30 minutes. How do people do this, man? It's crazy. I can see the time flying by when you're playing a game, but like, oh my god. Looking at the same screen for a while is making me dizzy almost. It's crazy. Alright. Let's keep going now. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's go for a good old let's see. Actually, I'll show you guys how far this thing goes. Actually, I'll show you how far up these skill list goes. Actually, so I have all of them in these little image bars right here. This is how far we came from right here, and so right now we're pretty much we're like over here, and the skills just keep on going pretty much until we get to the end. It's pretty crazy. I know, right, guys? There's so many skills in this game. But hey, Ass makes it so damn good. If anything, I may have to honestly, just to make myself sharper, I may end the stream right now just to cut it off short and just to keep it so that it's short and simple and not like 4 hours long and undigestible. You know what I mean? But yeah. If anything, it is getting kind of late, but I actually willing to answer some GURPS questions right now. I'll be posting this higher resolution graph right here for you guys to look at, and and yell at me for. Yes, they will. But hey, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll again use your mechanic skill to fix it back up. But yeah, yeah. If there's any questions you guys have about right now about GURPS, about the tier list in general, let me know. But yeah, I'm gonna call it in like I'd say like 3 minutes. Let's do a couple more. Why not? While we're at it, herb lore. I'm putting it the same tier, as similar tier as. Sorry for the flashbang again, guys. Herb lore. I'm putting it at the same tier as alchemy, in that it can be very very useful in a specific type of game for a specific type of character. Dungeon Fantasy games, the herb lore motherfuckers are very very much appreciated, because those who are able to figure out and pretty much apply a lot of the uses of all the random plants and animals and the like in the game, and pretty much concoct the potions that alchemy requires. Like those two skills go very well with one another, pretty much. Alrighty, so I'm gonna put it around where alchemy is at. Putting alchemy a little bit higher. Okay. And let's go and do teaching. Teaching is very good. It gives, and if you're committed to teaching, you can give people free points. It's free points worth of skills that your character knows. So like those skills that like give you minus to teaching can really hurt you in the long run if you want to be able to impart magic or impart knowledge, or like whether it be like magic or the ability to heal somebody, you know, like or the ability to like, you know, help somebody up, or be better at sword fighting, or even like learning different like perks and the like physical perks and stuff, things that are teachable, like shield wall training, for instance. Teaching is your go-to. So definitely take teaching if you're interested in like long form roleplay moments where your character is able to where you're in a game where your characters are able to have long moments to themselves, a lot of downtime too, in helping others adapt, pretty much, and teach them new languages as well. Like, teaching can be very, very good. Go ahead and take it, because it can go a long way in your games. I'll put it right there, actually. Okay, guys, this is the first stage of the GURPS skills tier list. I'm sorry to not finish it in one go, but I'm tired. It's been a long day. I had a long day, but I thought I'd do this a little faster than I did last time, but no, it took me longer. My last the skills tier list itself took me it was 2 hours and 40 minutes, and it was 1 by the time I finished. But by the time I finished it, and now this is like I'm not even I'm like halfway through, and it's taking me 2 hours and 30 minutes. So, listen, it's gonna be a ride for the next time I stream this, and you guys hop on for the ride. But for now, I'm gonna end the stream, and I'll see you guys for next time. I hope you guys enjoy your own GURPS games. I hope you guys play, imagine, make new games. I want you guys to stay GURPing out there and just enjoy life. You're loved. I want you to know that.